Okay. Next question here. Did you have a checklist for due diligence to buy business as you have for stock buying? You know what? We have stuff similar to that, but that's a good point. Attorney Nicole Compton, who teaches our entrepreneurship program, it's blackmoney103.com, blackmoney103.com, because it's the third class in our Black Money sequence. We have a 6-part Black Money sequence that will literally equip any person on Black wealth at a level that's higher than anything you'll ever get in college, not just because we're good at what we do, but also because we're specifically Black focused. Most business schools just sort of focus on wealth in general, whereas we are 100% clear that the way Black people have to think about economics is very different from the way white people think about economics. We work with a different set of resources. We have a different set of priorities. We have a different set of opportunities. We have a different economic environment in terms of, our families and things like that. Like, so for example, if you're trying to start a business, it's much easier to start a business in a family full of entrepreneurs than it is to start a business in a family full of people that are just job seekers. Not just job seekers, but they're job seekers, right? I'm not gonna say just, because I don't want it to seem like it's like they're less than. But people who are job seekers kind of, they don't really get it when you talk about a business idea and stuff like that. So sometimes if your elevator goes up here, like what was it? The hip hop mogul Jay Prince was doing an interview, and he said that sometimes he doesn't even talk about his ideas, because he said sometimes, he said, if your elevator goes up higher than other people's elevator, then they're not going to understand what you're talking about. So basically, if your elevator is one that's sort of built on freedom and prosperity, and you actually have a vision that might earn you some ridiculous amount of money, like $100,000 a month or $200,000 a month, which there are a lot of Black entrepreneurs who actually do this, by the way, people that you'll never hear about, then sometimes you don't need to talk to people about it, because they're not going to get it. It's only going to frustrate you, because they're going to tell you that it's impossible, even though it's not. White people do this every day. And then the other thing is, just generally speaking, when you start making money, you have to be real cautious about who you talk to about that, because some people are not happy for you. Some people will get jealous, or they'll either get jealous, or they'll put a certain different type of set of expectations on you, or they'll bring you their sob stories and then get mad at you. Like, they'll jeopardize your friendship if you don't come through and save them. Like, oh, I'm getting evicted, I need money, and you don't come through for the money. They say, oh, you think you're better than everybody now that you got all this money now, right? Like, this stuff is real, and that's why you don't see me. I don't really talk much about, I only time I tell you guys that I've made some money is so that you'll understand I'm not just teaching. Like, these are things I actually do. Like, so as I put together the stock options weekend that we're putting together, the methodology, I'm still working. I've been testing it for almost a year. This is stuff that I do in my real life. This is stuff I do with my own actual assets. And so I only share it for teaching purposes, so that people don't think I'm like, like most business school professors who don't really know how to make money. They just sort of know how to teach what's in the book. I actually know how to make money, but I don't want to go around and have people seeing me in Gucci and Lamborghinis and all this other stuff, because people go crazy over that stuff. It's a very toxic kind of environment you're operating in. And if you want to get an analogy, imagine, have you ever seen those movies? What was that movie? It was, I think it's called Paid in Full. Damon Dash made that movie. And anyway, so as I work with Damon on a few things. We did a project called Intelligent Boss Moves not too long ago. But anyway, so in his movie, it was all about, like the jealousy that happens when people are in an environment where nobody has any money but you. So you're sitting there and you got a big plate of food and everybody else around you is hungry. That just creates a real crazy situation. So if you're going to eat, if you got a bunch of food, you either better share that food or you better hide the food, or both. Maybe you share it and hide it at the same time, because, human beings can be interesting people when it comes to fighting over scarce resources. All right. So let me see here. So sorry, to answer that question specifically, I'm Atula. I apologize. Blackmoney103.com. That's our entrepreneurship program. Attorney Nicole Compton actually does things where she says, 8 steps to starting your business. So she has checklists and things like that. But to your point, I actually think it might be really fun to put together kind of a Dr. Boyce sort of thing, where I can give you specific steps on that kind of thing. So I'm actually going to make notes on that. So let's see here. Give me 1 second here, because I actually have something called the Dr. Boyce method for stock selection, And I'm thinking maybe on the drboycemethod.com, I could also put something for starting a business. Let me see. Yeah, if you go to the THE, the drboycemethod.com, I think it's still up there. Yeah, that's where you can actually take a look at the methodology I put together for stocks. I literally spent a weekend teaching the students a specific 11-step process for how I go about picking stocks and which stocks I want to add to my portfolio. It's a good process. Do you know anything about WeFunder? Not much. I don't use WeFunder. I use E-Trade, Ameritrade, Robinhood, Cash App, Acorn Stash. I use Forex.com to trade Forex, and Coinbase for my crypto. I have a lot of crypto in Bittrex, but I want to get it out of Bittrex and move it to Coinbase. I just haven't done it yet. And the reason I want to move it to Coinbase is because I feel safer with a US based entity, because I feel like they're not going to rip me off. Some of these foreign companies, if they take your money, you go to court. It doesn't matter. You have no protection. So you got to be careful. Some of these companies literally disappear and go bankrupt, and they're just gone. Let's see. Abrian says, I'm 44. Do you think I can be in a good financial position at 55 if I stay consistent investing in the stock market? Absolutely. If you were 44 11 years ago and you were investing consistently, say using the $5 a day investment plan, you would probably have more wealth than the average American. Let me see here. Let me see what the wealth percentiles are in the U.S. In the $5 a day plan, which actually you can pick up a copy of that if you go to theallblackagenda.com, theallblackagenda.com. The $5 a day wealth plan, I think that after 10 years, if you did that, and that's where you invest consistently $5 a day in the stock market. And this is assuming that you literally randomly are picking stocks. You're not even thinking about stock selection and getting the right stock at the right time. You're literally just spreading your money out and picking different stocks. In about 10 years, if a person had done this, say in 1990 or 2000 or whatever, in 10 years, I think they would have about $30,000. And in 20 years, they would have about over $100,000 in liquid wealth. So that's why I tell you guys, I repeatedly remind you that you need to confront that BS where when people start getting into that, that liberal talk about, like, oh, if you're born poor, there's no way out of poverty. You're completely trapped. No, what you're trapped by is not so much where you are. You're trapped by where people are tricking you into going. Like, so if I live in the hood, my odds of eating unhealthy food and getting diabetes and heart disease is definitely higher, right? But it's not because I have to eat unhealthy food necessarily. It's because they're advertising unhealthy food to me everywhere I go. It's because the only restaurants available in that neighborhood are the Popeyes chicken over here and the McDonald's over there. But if I'm conscious, see, this is why consciousness is important. This is why consciousness is you want to be conscious of what the term conscious actually means. Consciousness means that I'm stopping and saying, okay, I'm not going to do things on autopilot. That's where they get you. They manipulate your subconscious mind. And when you do things on autopilot, next thing you know, you're kind of going along with the programming. But if you're conscious, you're not going along. You're not doing anything on autopilot. Your conscious mind is making your decisions, not your subconscious. Excuse me. And then at that point, you see a lot of people. I know a lot of people that live right in the middle of the hood who eat extremely healthy because they're very conscious about what they put in their bodies. So poverty is kind of the same way. It sucks to be born in poverty. I was born in poverty. My mother you couldn't get any poorer than we were. My mother was 17 years old with no money in her pocket, and we lived in the projects. All that stuff, right? And I share all that because another thing that people do to make you believe that it's not possible to build wealth on your own, they don't want you to really have freedom and independence and the ability to do it on your own. They need you to depend on them. They need you to be afraid. They need you to be unempowered. And I share this because it's like because one way that they keep you from doing what you have to do is they detach you from people that are doing well. So when a Dr. Boyce comes along and says, hey, y'all, I have the solution. I have a PhD in finance. I can explain exactly how white people get all their money. People say, oh, well, he's not like you. He's rich. He don't understand what it's like to be in the hood. He don't understand what it's like to be broke. What are you talking about? I know all of those things. I know them extremely well. And it's because I know them so well that I'm even back in the hood talking to people and saying, here's how you get out. Or it's because I know it so well that I got out, that I made a conscious decision to get out. So I just encourage you to kind of reconsider that. Now, let me tell you, wealth percentiles in the United States, it looks to me like, let's see here, household net worth percentiles for the U.S. So I guess if your net worth was, let me see, I'm trying to make sure I get this right. I'm looking at this chart online, and they're telling you where let's see, the average net worth of the top 1%. Wait, no, this thing is hard to. Okay, what is the top 1% household net worth? To be in the top 1%, you had to have a net worth of $11 million. Oof, that's a lot. Um, okay, let me go back, but let me go down the lower percentiles. Okay. All right. So the 75th percentile has a net worth in 2020. Is this average, or I'm trying to figure out if this is average or median? That makes a big difference. It's big. It's over 400,000. But if you want to be in the top half, your net worth would be about 121,000. The bottom 25% has a net worth of 12,400 or lower. And so I'm going to guess that. So 20 years of the $5 a day plan puts you definitely in the top half of net worth in the United States, according to this chart. But I don't like this. I don't like this chart. Let me find a better one because this is really hard to read. Let's see here. To be in the top 50%, you need a net worth of $85,000. To be in the top 10%, you need a net worth of $721,800. Let me look here. Business Insider. The net worth it takes at every age to be richer than most people you know. Okay, this is good. The typical American household has a net worth of $97,000. Okay, so that's a big number, right? If you don't have any net worth at all. But actually, if you go back and you look at the math on the $5 a day investing plan, which you can actually take a look at the allblackagenda.com. On that page, it shows you basically that a person who was blindly picking stocks and investing $5 a day, which is actually less than you can't even buy a Popeye's chicken value meal for that amount. That person would have over $100,000 in net worth in 20 years. So, and that's individual. That's not household, right? Remember that. So if you did something like a $5 a day plan and your spouse did a $5 a day plan, then both of you, or your future spouse, then both of you would have a combined family net worth of $200,000. So as a family, your net worth would be twice as much as the median American, right? So that right there closes the wealth gap for you. It's very easy for you to close the wealth gap for you. What's impossible is to close the wealth gap for 40 million Black people because Black people have been too many people have been trained to not listen to instructions and information and guidance. They're more interested in what rappers are doing, or more interested in sports, or just interested in the misery repetition that we constantly hear from politicians. But people that actually apply these models really do well wealth-wise. To be in the top 20%, you need a household net worth of nearly 500,000. So let's see, if you break it down by age, it's even more interesting. The richest 20% of 41 to 45-year-olds have a net worth of $379,000. Let me see if they got a good chart. Okay, 18 to 25-year-old. Let's see here. Let's see. They say 22,750. I don't know what that means, if that's the median or what. To be in the top 50%, you need a net worth of $4,000. To be in the top 10% of 18 to 25-year-olds, you have to have a net worth of $65,000. Now they're talking about 26 to 30-year-olds. To be in the top 50% of 26 to 30-year-olds, you have to have a net worth of $12,000. That's really low. That's really crazy. To be in the top 10%, you need a net worth of $142,000. So let me explain something to you. This is where you have the ability to make yourself immortal in your family. This is where you literally will make yourself so impactful in your family that you'll be like the Marcus Garvey of your family, and they'll remember you 100 years from now. If you have a little newborn baby, my brother has a newborn baby coming up in January, Augustus. We've already named him. Hopefully everything will be okay with that. And so for Augustus, we're doing not a $5 a day plan with him. We're doing something more like the $20 a day type thing. But we're investing consistently for Augustus now as a baby, before he's even aware of the resources that'll be available to him. And so what's going to happen is, and this is independent of inheritance and him being brought into the family business or whatever, right? If he he seems like somebody who's a fit, then that might even be in the cards too. But putting all that aside, this is just specifically money invested for him. So if we did say $20 a day on average, which is about $600 a month, that's a lot of money. But by the time he's 25, 30 years old, he's going to be in the top 1% of all 25 to 30-year-olds, right? Easily. Now, if we do something smaller, let's say we did the $5 a day plan, like we talk about, and that's kind of the lower rung of that. Again, you can't even buy a cup of coffee for $5, really, not at Starbucks anyway. That plan would be something where by the time he's 30, his net worth would be about $300,000, between $250,000 and $300,000. So, and remember, this isn't just net worth on paper. This is liquid. Most people that have a high net worth don't have that like in a liquid form. Like Kanye West says he's a billionaire. When I talked to Kanye on the phone, I remember he actually believes that he's worth $4 billion, right? Or something. I don't know. I like him. He's a very nice guy, but he's kind of talking about a lot of different things. And but the thing about it though is Kanye does not have $1 billion, right? Kanye is the reason he's considered worth $1 billion is because they took the money from his Adidas deal, and which was 113 million. He made that in a year, and they did a multiplier. They multiplied that by I think 10 or 11. And Forbes magazine said if you take his 113 million and multiply it by 10 or 11, you get about 1.3 billion. So they technically classify Kanye as a billionaire in net worth because his entities, which pretty much is mostly driven by his Adidas deal. All his other assets were like 10 million here, 20 million there, but he really didn't have a lot of assets outside of that deal with Adidas. So if Adidas were to cut that deal, and just let him go, or if he couldn't sell shoes anymore, he would never actually have $1 billion liquid at any point in his career. So your child having $250,000 or $300,000 liquid in stocks that they can sell like right now and get $3,000, $10,000. They want to take a vacation. They want to spend $25,000. They can do that. That's very powerful. That's a very powerful position for a young black man or young black woman to be. And that's with $5 a day. Now, if you really are doing well, at $5 a day, to give it a comparison point, if you take $5 a day, you multiply by 30, you got $150. Most people, give me a yes or no if you know people that have a car note that's more than $150. Most car notes are $300, $250, $300. I know people with $500 car notes, right? So $150 a month is not a lot of money for your future. And the way to also look at it like this is the people that tend to accumulate wealth are people that value wealth, people that really, where that's a core priority. Like the people who go to church the most are the people who are really religious, who really care about God or care about Jesus or care about the Bible, right? So the question is, in your wealth accumulation process, do you care about the acquisition of wealth? Because if you care about it, you're not going to put it at the bottom of your priority list. You're going to put it at the top, right? And when something's at the top of your priority list, then that's what you're going to do. That's where you're going to put your best energy. So the question I'll ask, and then I'll move on, is, when you tell me you haven't accumulated any wealth, I think the question I might ask is, do you really value wealth? Like, or do you just kind of value the idea of having wealth? Like anybody can value the idea of being rich, but do you value it enough that you make that daily, weekly sacrifice in order to truly be rich? Or are you a person who just kind of has a fantasy about all the great things you would do if you had a lot of money? So that's a decision you have to make. That's just my analysis of it. But like I said, it's very, very easy to put your child in the top 10%, top 20% in net worth for their age bracket by making investments for them now. And the $5 a day plan does that. The allblackagenda.com is where you can go to do this. So let me put that in here in the chat. And also, if you have a question and you're inside the Zoom, just put the question in the Q&A section. Those are the ones I'm going to answer first. Dion Willis says, I have a rental property. Do you think it's best to put it in the LLC? I've set up a property management company. Well, I think that is a good move. I tend to believe that I like to put my property in the LLCs or trusts because with LLCs and with trusts and things like that, you can write off investments and or if somebody sues you, it's not so easy to just go grab all your stuff. Like when people have more money, one key of wealth protection is not to put all your money in one place. It's no basic from if you were a gangster and you had $10 million, you don't put your whole 10 million in one stash house. You would spread it out around the city or around the state or around the country so that you can have backup plans. Pablo Escobar used to do that. Just as a side note, I don't know if anybody watched Narcos, and it ended really badly because he had a bunch of money buried under a tree at his dad's house. It was right toward the end when the police were closing in on him and his whole organization had fallen apart, and he didn't have much money, but he had a bunch of money that he buried under a tree near his father's house. and he goes there to get the money, and all the money had rotted because he didn't put the money in proper, he didn't store it properly. So that's not that matters. That's just like a stupid side note that makes me think about that. But yeah, but spreading your money out is really important. That way it's not so easy to lose everything. Michael Watkins, what's up, Doc? I recently opened a Coinbase account, but they don't offer Cardano crypto. We're going to buy Cardano crypto. I like Bittrex. I use Bittrex. I'm going to move my Bittrex money over to Coinbase, but you're right. Coinbase gives you fewer options. I know Cash App sells crypto, but I don't think they sell all the new cryptos because there's so many different cryptocurrencies. And I'm still trying to really come to terms with which ones have long-term value and which ones don't. It really is a crapshoot to some extent with crypto. I don't mind the crapshoot because I want my portfolio to have a little spice in it. But believe me, I'm not depending on crypto as my retirement plan because it can blow up for you really fast. Hello, Dr. Watkins. Where can I find an investment club that invests in small businesses? I don't have a circle of family and friends. Is your investment club still active? You know what? The investment club is something that I wanted to put together, and actually it's something that I'm going to actually reach out to you guys again very, very soon. And so this link that you shared, I'm going to go take a look at that to kind of see what the status of that is. We wanted to do investment clubs. I think the big challenge is like the administrative aspect. First of all, I'm not a great administrator as far as keeping up with, lots of details on other people's money and everything else. I don't like that role because you make one mistake, then suddenly it becomes really bad and you're a crook and everything. I don't want to, that's why I avoid that type of stuff. But I would like to actually become a facilitator of investment clubs to help you form investment clubs together with each other. And so what I'm thinking is, in fact, anybody in the chat who actually wants to create an investment club, maybe you can put your contact information in there and encourage others to reach out to you, and you can form a club that way. And we'll try to put together something more structured in the Black Business School. I kid you not when I say I've been thinking about this for like 4 years. And I don't move on something until I feel like it can be done in the right way. And so I want, it's really the administrative infrastructure. Like I don't want to do anything that's going to cause any, chaos or anything. So go ahead if you want to right here while you're in the chat. Feel free to put your contact information in there, and anybody who wants to join or connect with you, Adrian, can do that. And that way you can, because you can do a great digital investment club. You just get on Zoom and you just make decisions together on Zoom. It's not that hard to do. And actually in the Black Stock Market program, there is a lecture on how to form an investment club. I've done this lecture a billion times. So if you go to, if you log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com, you can actually find that lecture in there. There's a ton of lectures in there, but that's one of them. So feel free to take a look. Let me see here. Larson, can I tell them in my 401k to put more investments, like putting more in the S&P, NASDAQ, or most of it being in the Dow? Yes, you should be able to. Just meet with whoever runs your 401k. Most companies have a 401k administrator or something like that, and just tell them what you want and see what your options are. But yeah, you can tell them where to invest. Kyle, if you had to put your wealth in 3 different areas, where would it be? Real estate, stock market, self-employed business, etc. There you go. You said it. That's how I invest. Those are what I call the 3 pillars of wealth. If you want to understand the vast majority of ways that rich people get rich in America, you want to learn stocks, you want to learn real estate, you also want to learn small business, how to start a business or how to invest in a business. You don't have to run a business to invest in a business. So don't go for that nonsense when people tell you, well, everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Well, everybody doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are people who typically people who start something and they actually do the work, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know about you, but the years I have on this earth are very valuable to me, and I don't want to spend all my time working on something that's not my passion, right? And also, you can only work on so many businesses at once. You can only be an entrepreneur with so many ventures at once before you're spread too thin. It's like raising children. You can only raise so many kids and really do it properly and give every child the time and attention they need. So entrepreneurs are a lot like people who make a baby and raise the baby till the baby's 18 years old. And that's a very important job. But that's not the only way you can get a chance to like raise a kid. You could adopt a child that's like 10 years old, and you could say, look, I don't want to be a parent for 18 years and I don't want to change any diapers. So I'll just take the last 8 years, right? From 10 to 18. So I'll go adopt a 10-year-old. Or you could just say, you know what? I like kids, but I don't really want to raise them in my house. So excuse me, I'll become an elementary school teacher. I get to see kids every single day, right? And it fulfills that part of me that wants to, feel like a parent a little bit or whatever. Or maybe I'll be a babysitter, right? So the point of the matter, or maybe I'll help the neighborhood kids. Maybe I'll run a program for youth, right? There's a lot of different ways to have kids around that go beyond making a baby and raising a baby to the age of 18. So you don't have to be an entrepreneur to participate in the process of generating income from small business. A lot of business owners have a lot of needs. They go beyond just, starting things. In fact, starting things is hard because it's very rocky in the beginning. There's a lot of uncertainty in the beginning. You don't know if this idea is going to manifest, if it's actually going to work. There are many excellent entrepreneurs who create businesses that fail. So sometimes it's better to put your energy and your resources into a business that's already operational. Like there's a reason, for example, that Salesforce bought Slack for what, $2 or $3 billion or something. They could have easily created their own version of Slack. They could have said, we can hire computer programmers. We'll go hire a bunch of computer guys or women, and we'll just create our own version of Slack, and we'll market it and we'll make it great. Well, that's a long process, right? So instead they said, you know what, let's just grab 2.7 billion or whatever the cost was, and let's just go buy this company that's already operational. They've already done the hard work. They've already figured out all the details. We'll just buy them and get them on our team so we can go full throttle. Okay. So just realize there's a lot of ways to skin that cat. That's why financial literacy is so important, is that way you can figure out, like, based on the situation, what works best for you. A lot of financial literacy is deeply connected to self-awareness. When I sat on the phone with my investment advisor and we were talking about what I really want from him and what I want my economic future to look like for me and my family, it was a personal conversation. It was about me as a human being, what my values are. It was about my hopes and dreams. It was about the things that I enjoy. It was about my preferences. It wasn't just like, okay, well, I want you to make sure that my assets are allocated, 30% stock, 40% bonds, and then I want you to make sure that you will add in some small cap stocks with some international exposure. Yeah, we talk about all that, but then we start talking about what I want for my kids, and we start talking about how I want to grow old and die, things like that, or what I want to happen if I die, So anyway, let me keep going. What is a good position to have in stocks that you purchase? I don't know that question. I don't understand that question. What is a good position to have in stocks that you purchase? You mean how much to invest? It depends on how much money you have. For some people, it could be $10. For some people, it might be 10,000. So it depends on where you are economically. Michelle, how do you reinvest your gains in the stock market? I'm new to Robinhood. I made about $400. Well, you can reinvest your gain. Well, first of all, to have gains to reinvest, something has to be sold. Right? Like if I have stock and it grows in value and I have $400 in there that's in the stock, I have to sell that stock to buy something else. But the thing about it is I'm not a big fan of overthinking. You don't actually have to do anything. Sometimes you look at Robinhood and you get excited because something good or bad happened. Either you get scared or you get excited and you feel like you got to make a move. You feel like you got to do something. Sometimes you don't have to do anything. There are some investors who don't do anything for like a year. Once a year, they'll go in and reallocate their portfolio and then they go back to living their life. But then there are some investors who might make 2 or 3 trades a day, right? Because maybe it's fun for them. I think that feeling like you have to necessarily make a move is kind of a mistake. Like I think it's more like, well, what do you want to do? What is your need at that time? Do I need to spread my money out and diversify a little more? Am I worried about, the value of my stock dropping, because I've owned Tesla and now Tesla is over 600. I bought it at, 200. So I really don't want to lose that. How do I protect that, but still maintain the upside with Tesla? There's a lot of ways to do that. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I think stock options are just a great tool to have. When it comes to investing, if you think about buying stock as baking a cake, cake is good, but cake tastes so much better when you put icing on it. The options are the icing, right? So if you think about it, though, the cake analogy to me is perfect because you don't want to eat a cake without icing, but you shouldn't eat icing without cake. a lot of people eat the icing without the cake. They buy stock options and they don't want to own any stock. They like the stock options because they like the leverage. They like the fast money. It's like shaking the bones and rolling the dice, or betting on sports. They get excited about that. But the problem with that is that there's a downside to that, right? There's a downside to that. What I almost call it financial crack, because it really affects your brain the way drugs do, actually. Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT actually said that money affects the same region of your brain as cocaine. So when you make money, it's literally like doing a line of cocaine. That's why you got to be really careful, because financial addiction is very, very real. So basically, and people form gambling addictions with stock options. There are people in Gamblers Anonymous right now, I kid you not, who never went to a casino. They never bet with a bookie, but they did all their work on Robinhood, and they literally became gambling addicts. So you got to be really careful with that. But anyway, so that's what happens when you eat all the icing with no cake. But the icing and the cake together creates like something really special. So stock options allow you to do a lot of things. You can generate income on your portfolio without actually having to sell anything. You can protect yourself against downside risk. You can get a piece of the upside and get just the right piece. You can manage your risk almost perfectly. Stock options are a beautiful thing. So if you actually want to learn more about stock options, we actually have a masterclass I did that was really popular. 97% of the students, they didn't just love the content, they also love the price. So if you, and the price is actually lower now if you want to watch the recordings. So if you want to, you can go to stockoptionsmasterclass.com. I'll put the URL in the chat here. It's stockoptionsmasterclass.com. And if somebody could type that in, I'd appreciate it. Feel free to take a look. Stock options, that's the next frontier of investing. A lot of people know how to buy stock, but a lot of people are confused by options. I'm not confused by them. They come easy to me, but it's probably because I have a master's in math and all that stuff. But the cool thing is that when you really understand it, like I could explain it to a 5-year-old, because everybody knows what options are. Everybody knows what it means to have options, right? And so once you kind of build off that foundation, then you can go into what stock options actually mean and what they can actually do for you financially. So feel free to take a look. All right, let's see here. Clavera says, I have a small trucking business. I received an SBA loan for $50K. What's the best direction to use the money to build my wealth or grow my business? By the way, we homeschool and own a couple of properties. Good for you, Claveros. I'm sorry, Claveros. I think that's a great position you have. I like the fact that you're homeschooling your kids. That's really, to me, that's like a boss move, because you're not letting the world mess up your family. Like, you literally are taking control of all these things. Because I see this as a battle, as a war. We're always in an economic war. The only reason you don't see the war is because you've been losing the war so much that you don't even think that there really is a war, because you're kind of occupied and controlled. So homeschooling your kids is great. Our 3 core values in the Black Business School, in case you don't know, is that we believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. If we do those 3 things, then about 80 or 90% of our oppression would disappear. It would literally, it's not that they would stop trying to oppress you. They would continue to try to oppress you, but their ability to actually get the job done would be much lower. It's like in a basketball game. The other team's never going to stop trying to play defense and outscore you or steal the ball. They're always going to keep trying, but it doesn't matter. If you're a good team, then you expect them to try, but you just know how to score points for yourself. You know how to play your own defense and your own offense, right? So educating your own children is really important, to instill them with the right values. A wealthy Black person with bad values is just not an asset at all to the community. They're a liability. Also, owning property is good because you're diversified. You're kind of in this you're putting a lot of chips on the table in terms of giving yourself many opportunities to win the game. And now with the SBA loan, you want to make sure that you don't run afoul of any instructions or expectations that come with the loan. Usually when you get a government loan, whether it's SBA or PPP, there's a restraint, there's a requirement, right? So you can't just take the money and do whatever you want. So make sure you're in compliance with that. But as far as building your business or growing your wealth, it really comes down to thinking about your life as in terms of financial vehicles. If your goal is to get down the road of wealth, if you think about wealth building as like traveling down a road, and your goal is to go as far down the road as possible, and you go into the garage and you've got different vehicles in the garage. You've got a skateboard, you've got a bike, a 10-speed bike, you've got a Toyota Corolla, you've got a Porsche, you've got a helicopter, and you got a jet airplane all in the hangar. And you can pick a vehicle that's going to get you down the road the fastest. Then you want to consider, like, okay, which vehicle is going to get me, which a few things, right? which vehicle is the fastest, right? That's the easy one, right? But then you might say, well, which vehicle will go the furthest, right? Which one's the most reliable? You might say, which one has the most risk attached to it? You know, if an airplane might be scarier to me than a skateboard, right? Or a 10-speed bike. You might say, and then you might also just say, well, where am I trying to go? You know, so with investing, when you have capital and you're trying to accelerate that capital by putting that capital into a vehicle that's going to get you down the road, you got to look at your different investment options and figure out which one's going to give you the right mix, you know, that's going to get you to where you want to get to in the most efficient way. And I say efficient specifically because it's not just the one that's the fastest. It's not just the one that's the safest, right? There's, or another thing is like, even though airplanes are safer than cars, some people don't like airplanes because they don't like the turbulence. Alicia, when we get on an airplane, she has to drink wine because she gets so scared of the turbulence. And I say, well, you know, babe, turbulence doesn't kill anybody, right? It's not a big deal. Here I am, I'm falling asleep because I don't care. I've never been scared of airplanes, but for her, the turbulence is a big deal. So for some people, even though they know they logically know the turbulence won't kill them, they can't stomach that. Right. So even though the airplane may get you further down the road and faster than the car, they may still want to take the car because they want to be safe. Or maybe they want to enjoy the scenery. Right. In an airplane, you don't get to enjoy the scenery. If you take a long road trip, you can enjoy looking out the window and looking at everything. And investing really is a journey. Like, you know, starting a business, that's part of you. Remember, the biggest asset you're investing is not your money. You're investing in your life. Right. It makes you think about Ice Cube song, your money or your life. Right. So you're investing in your life. And it's okay to say, you know, I could make more money doing this, but I actually want to be happy. I want to enjoy my life. Like, so for example, I imagine, you know, instead of me sitting here talking to you right now, I don't know, maybe I could be talking to like Chinese people and having and building a much more thriving like enterprise, right? Maybe it's, you know, if it were just the business school instead of the Black business school, maybe I could go to those Chinese students and make an extra, you know, $10 million, but I don't want to talk to Chinese people. I want to talk to Black people, right? So that's kind of the way to kind of process your different investment vehicles. And that's why financial literacy is important, because when you're looking at these different vehicles and you're trying to figure out which one you want that's going to get you down the road, you have to have a certain type of awareness. Like a person who sees an airplane who doesn't even know what an airplane does is going to walk right past the airplane and they're going to get on the bike because they're going to think the bike is the best way for them to get down the road. So financial literacy is like the ability to identify what an airplane is, what it does, how to get one, and then knowing how to fly one. That's a whole nother thing, right? Learning how to drive the different vehicles. Like, so to take the analogy full circle, you got your different vehicles, you got your different stocks, you got your different real estate, you got your different entrepreneurship, you know, ventures or whatever. You got to learn how to drive those vehicles and learn which vehicles is the right fit for you, and which one will go the furthest, which one will go the fastest. Excuse me. And the other complication is that changes from one situation to the next. So I'll give you a specific example to really nail it home. There would be times where somebody will come along to me with a business deal that I can't refuse, like literally something where I'm like, oh my God, if I put $10,000 into this, I can flip that into $50,000 in less than a year because it's wide open. We've got the expertise, we have the market, we have the opportunity, the money can be made very fast. So in that case, I'll look over here and I might see that I have $10,000 in a stock that's doing okay, but it's not going to give me a 5x flip in a year, right? So it's a vehicle, it's fast, like it's a Porsche, but a Porsche is not a jet airplane. So what you might do is you might say, you know, I think I'm gonna sell this Porsche so I can go invest in this plane. You follow me? So I'm going to sell my stock so I can invest in this business venture because the business venture is going to get me down the road faster. Okay. So there we go. All right. Let me keep going. What's the best way to learn about trading options? Well, we have the options masterclass. So if you go to stockoptionsmasterclass.com, the stockoptionsmasterclass.com, you can do that. That's more of a lump sum thing. I forgot what the cost is, but it's not that expensive. And also, by the way, you can use the code word, podcast. You can actually, because that's the only one I can think of, you can actually get 30% off anything in the Black Business School. So write that code down, podcast, and that'll give you a discount on everything, unless there's already a really steep discount, in which case it may not apply. The other thing that we have is the blackoptionsinvesting.com, which is a monthly program. So that has a monthly fee. So it's a lower fee, but it's monthly. So you can go stockoptionsmasterclass.com if you want the masterclass, you want it all as a lump, or you can do blackoptionsinvesting.com, which is the monthly layout of our options curricula. So feel free to take a look at that. All right, Kathy Calhoun. I don't have a person I trust to keep, or I'm not in stocks at the moment. Do you think putting money in a business account would be okay until I figure out something else? Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. Leaving your money set until you make a decision. I do that all the time. Sometimes I don't like I'll tell you guys out loud sometimes, like there are things that I want to do sometimes where I just say, God doesn't want me to move right now. I need to just sit on it and think about it. I do believe in God. I'm very spiritual. I think that's a good thing. And I'll just say, you know what, when the moment comes for me to make that move, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to know it. But right now that moment isn't here. So until then, I'm going to sit still and I'm just going to think and think and think. Part of the key, just in case you want to know, one of the keys to being smart, being a smarter person, is patience and just thinking. Like just literally looking at things and just thinking about everything, analyzing everything from 1,000 different directions. Like that literally is a key. Like if you make decisions too fast, you're going to make bad decisions. So sometimes if you don't know, just sit back and think. You don't have to hurry up. But don't get paralysis of analysis. That's another thing too, because sometimes you got to learn on the job. Dion Willis, trying to start an online t-shirt business and a brand. Should I put it into an LLC, or how do I set up a merchant account to get paid? Well, the specifics of setting up a merchant account, that's beyond the scope of this discussion. But I will say that you've got some t-shirt businesses out here like Teespring and stuff like that, where you can set an account up today. It's the hard part is getting people to buy the t-shirt. So you got to come up with good designs and really compelling marketing. That's the part that I've noticed people have the biggest trouble with. But yeah, you can start t-shirt companies pretty easy. And then Teespring's not the only one. There are 1,000 places where it's easier because they'll make the shirts for you and they just get their cut and you get your cut though. You can set the price whatever you want. I personally think that actually works pretty well because I don't really want to have a bunch of t-shirts in my garage and end up spending all my time shipping packages and stuff. So actually we have a t-shirt brand. I don't talk much about it, but it's good. It's good. I just don't get a chance. It just doesn't come to front of mind a lot, but it's actually wokeblacktees.com, and we have a bunch of like t-shirts. Well, this is actually for Black Enough. This is our social media platform, but actually Woke Black Tees. It has stuff on it like, I don't know, like I have a shirt that says that has a word employee scratched out and boss is written below that. Like, so just stuff that's like think about the most smart aleck stuff that I say. I put those things on shirts because I just think that it's like fun to like tell people to kiss your butt. All right, Hebrew, what's a good way to set up your retirement portfolio as in reference to Stash? A lot of these Stash, Acorns, Robinhood, they have a lot of retirement options in there, so you can follow suit with some of those. Your tax person, you'd have to let them know if you have money in some sort of IRA type thing, because they can write that off on your taxes. So you can set most of that up. Wealthfront is another app that specifically focuses on like retirement based planning, but that's not the only one. What's the website again for picking stocks? Oh, if you go to the drboycemethod.com, thedrboycemethod.com, that's where I put my 11-step methodology that I covered in the Black Stock Investing Weekend. So it's thedrboycemethod.com. There we go. Let's see here. Lydia, what do you think about the FIRE early retirement method? Yeah, FIRE. What is it like? What does FIRE stand for? Something like retire early, and then the F and the I. Let me see. Yeah, the FIRE method. It stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And I'm looking up the definition, and I want to read that specifically because I think it's interesting to talk about. Maybe I should do another conversation about this. It stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. The goal is to save and invest very aggressively, somewhere between 50 and 75% of your income, so you can retire in your 30s or 40s. That's right. You need to save at least half your income. Okay, so the FIRE method sounds like a really effective gimmick, right? It's not a bad thing. Saying gimmick is not meant in a derogatory way at all. What it basically, it's almost like saying, if you want to lose weight, don't eat any sugar and only eat, vegetables and fruits and drink water. And then you're going to lose a lot of weight really fast. That's pretty much what it's saying. It's saying, dedicate your life. In the beginning, remember I was saying, when you ask me, how do I build wealth or how do I get rich? And I would turn and ask you, like, what are your priorities? Like somebody actually said, don't tell me what your priorities are. Show me your budget and I'll tell you what your priorities are. So if your priorities, to accomplish something are very high, and you make it a top priority to do a certain thing, you're going to be good at that thing. Like if your priority as a Black man is to be a great basketball player, then you're going to be on the basketball court all the time. You're going to always have a basketball with you. You're going to always be talking about basketball. So you're going to be really good at basketball, right? And so so the question becomes, what are your priorities? So the FIRE method kind of just basically says that you want to make financial literacy your top priority. That means that that half your income has to go into this. It's like being involved in a really religious church. You ever see people that really go to church, like super holy rollers who are in church like 4 days a week, and everything's around the church? Like their kids learn in the church. They're in church, they're always at Bible study. They have extra Bible studies. They always stay after at church. They eat dinner at church. They do everything at church, right? It's the pastor this, the church that. Something goes wrong in the family, they call the pastor over. Like that's kind of what FIRE is. It's like the financial version of being hyper religious, and I think it's great. I love it. It basically says invest like crazy so you can quit your job early and retire. So it's not complex. It's not complex at all. Here's an example of a FIRE method that will work really well. I have the $5 a day investment plan that we talked about, right? We put that together. If somebody just said, I want to retire early, I'm not going to do the $5 a day method. I'm going to do the $30 a day method. So let's say I'm making $4,000 a month, or I'm bringing home $4,000 a month, or $5,000, or $3,500, or whatever. I'm going to put half my money into a stock portfolio, right? So better yet, in fact, it would be more than the $30 a day method. It might be more like the $50 a day method. Is that right? Let me see. $50 a day will be $1,500 a month. So if I bring home $3,000, that's half my income, right? And I'm going to reduce my lifestyle. I'm not going to, spend a lot of money on rent or going out or whatever. I'm going to spend a few years living like nobody else will, so I can spend the rest of my life living like nobody else can. That I did the FIRE method, except I didn't do it with money. I did it with education. I spent all my 20s in school, all my 20s from the age of 18 to the age of 31. I was literally studying finance 8 to 10 hours a day, every day of the week, including Sundays and including Christmas. I did that all the time, every day, right? And that was my version of the FIRE method. Now, 20 years after I finished my PhD, I'm still able to do things other people cannot do because of that sacrifice, right? So it's a blitzkrieg type of thing. The Germans, when Hitler actually had a strong army, he used the blitzkrieg method, which said, let's just go hard. Let's blitz on this country and throw everything we have at this country so we can invade this country, right? And the blitzkrieg method actually worked quite well. Hitler was a bastard, but it worked really well. And so basically, the FIRE method, if you translate it to, like, say, the $5 a day investment plan, if you went in and you said, I'm going to put half of my income toward my future. Like my future is so important to me. I want to live good so bad that I will let go of any and everything that is optional in my life so that I can invest half my income into the stock market. What does that do? Well, you're now supercharged. Now you are on steroids. You're building wealth on steroids. So you're making $3,000 a month. You're taking 1,500 of the $3,000. So you're not doing the $5 a day plan anymore. You're doing the $50 a day plan. So the $5 a day plan, after 10 years, you have, I think the number is like $30,000, let's say, approximately. Well, you're doing the $50 a day plan. So instead of having 30,000, you've got 300,000, right? The $5 a day plan, after 20 years, you have about 102,000. Well, no, you're doing the $50 a day plan. So you don't have 100,000 or 102,000. You have 1.2 million. You have over $1 million. So you have basically put yourself in a position where, yeah, you can quit your job if you want to, because now you got $1 million. And now what I would say too is, and I like the FIRE method. It's a very straightforward, simplistic, cool, catchy way to describe basically saying sacrifice for whatever you want. Whatever you want out of life, sacrifice for it. If you want it faster, then sacrifice more. Right? If you don't want it faster, then keep doing what you're doing. It's up to you. right? If you want to get to the grocery store faster, you put your foot further on faster. You put your foot on the pedal a little bit faster, right? You drive 70 miles an hour instead of going 30 miles an hour, right? So that's what the FIRE method kind of is. It seems like it's a movement based on the basic idea that says that if you want to quit your job and have, or have enough wealth where you never have to work again, just invest like a maniac and make that your number one priority, and it's going to happen for you. That's really what it's saying. Now, what I would add on to it, if I was to spice it up, I would also ask you, who are you and what matters to you? I think sacrifice is very important, but I also think happiness is really important. And I think that you can be happy while you sacrifice. I really do. So when I was doing my own version of the FIRE method, when I was in school and I'm studying 8 hours a day, all my friends are out at the club and partying and living life and doing stuff and getting married and having kids and buying houses. I was in school. That's it. That's what I did all through my 20s. I still wanted to enjoy my life. I didn't want to be miserable. So little things I would do is, first of all, I was doing something I really loved. I really enjoyed, the work I was doing, but also, I remember I took out some student loans at times that I didn't even really have to take out. I had enough money to pay my bills, but I would borrow some of the loan money because I was like, you know what? I work really hard. I deserve to be nice to me. I'm really good. I'm really nice to other people, and I do a lot of things for other people, and I sacrifice hard for my future. But I'm also going to make sure that Boyce in the present is well taken care of, because if you're constantly miserable and you're wearing yourself down and driving yourself crazy and stressing yourself out, then I don't think that the victory is really worth it in the end. So I'm not I'm not personally, I will say this. I'm not a fan of the FIRE method for me because I don't want to have to invest half my income and just put it all in the stock market. Like, sometimes you want to enjoy your money. And I think that there's ways to kind of do both. Also, when you talk about retiring early, retirement ain't all it's cracked up to be. The reason that retirement sounds so appealing is because you grew up in a culture where most people hate their jobs, right? You grew up with people that taught you that going to work can never be a good thing, that it always sucks. You're always working for a white man. You're always feeling oppressed. It's terrible. Well, work doesn't have to be that way. I don't want to retire. The worst thing you could ever do to me right now is to have me sit here and literally do nothing every day and take away my sense of purpose, where all I have on my agenda for the day is to turn on Netflix and see if there's a new movie out. I don't want to live like that. I love what I'm doing. You really think, do you guys really think, think about this for a minute, right? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, whatever that means to people. I think it means something to some people. I'm not sure. I don't track that sort of thing. But I can do whatever I want. I could be, out in the ocean on a yacht or something, or chilling upstairs in the bedroom taking an extra nap. But I choose to be here because I found my purpose. This is my passion. This is the big play. This is what you see. So having the wealth, you gotta. This is my personal perspective here. Take it with a grain of salt if you want to, but I believe that wealth without purpose just doesn't mean shit. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but it doesn't mean anything. Wealth without purpose means nothing. Having a bunch of money means nothing if you're not thinking about what you're going to do with that money. Freedom means nothing if you have no plan for that freedom. You see, being free means that you're supposed to go from earth up to heaven. You're supposed to go to the next level, right? You don't want to go from earth to purgatory, where you go into this big, vast space of nothingness where you're sitting around and watching TV all day. No, you free yourself from the plantation so that you can find another place to take your gifts and to share yourself with the world, to make whatever part of the world that matters to you into a better place. Right. So you can get away from doing the work that doesn't matter, so you can start doing the work that actually does matter. Because when you're doing the work that does matter and it means something to you and you really love it and you love the people you're doing it with, you're going to want to do that forever. And you would be willing to do that for free. And you're going to want to do that until the day you die. So I'm just here to tell you that retirement planning is kind of overrated. I'm never going to retire. I have no plans to ever retire. I'm going to literally, you know what I want to do? I want to be sitting here talking to you guys one morning and then and be like, I'm a little bit sick today. And then one day I just fall over and my head hits my desk and you're like, oh my God, what happened to Dr. Boyce? Call 911. I would think, and then you'll hear in the paper that Dr. Boyce died at his desk. That is the only thing better than that will be dying next to that beautiful woman that I have upstairs in the bedroom. That those two things would be almost equivalent. Alicia has a slight advantage, but that's how I want to go out. I don't want to go out sitting in front of the TV wasting time because I had enough money to retire and now I'm doing nothing. So take the FIRE method. It's cool, right? It's a great idea, but add something to it, spice it up, do what Black people do, like make it into something better for yourself so you can really find out who you are and what's really going to work for you. Don't get caught up in cookie cutter kinds of movements. I encourage you to learn enough where you can customize that to make it fit exactly what matters to you. Okay. All right. So let's see, Andrea, what advice would you give someone who's starting to save money late in life? First of all, I would say, your life is just beginning because you probably have children or grandchildren and that where their lives are just starting, right? The game is just beginning for other people. It's ending. It may be ending for you, but it's not, it's beginning for them. So, consider yourself to be part of that sequel. Most of us live our lives right now based on actions or activities of people who did things long before we ever arrived. Even Donald Trump, the reason he became president is because of decisions his father Fred made in the 1930s. If his father Fred had not done certain things in the 1930s, Donald Trump wouldn't have been a billionaire trying to run for president. I have a friend who bought a house in 2012, and the reason she bought the house was because in 1945 her grandfather bought war bonds for the family, and the money sat in the family trust for all those years. And her grandma said, "Oh, your granddaddy bought these war bonds in 1942. You could use that to buy your house." So now she's a homeowner, and she's almost a millionaire now because the value of her home has gone up. And she couldn't have been a homeowner if her grandfather had not bought those war bonds in 1942. So don't think of anything as the end of. It's not the end of anything. The only way you think of it as the end is if you're only thinking about yourself. And the thing about wealth is that wealth is a team sport. Wealth is not a solo sport. It's not about just what I can do for me right now in this generation. It's really how you can also prepare future generations so that they can actually win. There are lots of little tiny things you can do right now that would be massive for them in the future. Because as I told you guys before, the number one variable in wealth, when you break it down to a scientific level, a microscopic level, and I know the science of wealth, I know how all the equations work. The number one factor is time. Time is actually the number one factor in all these equations. Well, why does that matter? Why does that matter? Let me give me 1 second. I got to tell my person in my next meeting that I'm going to be a few minutes late. Okay, so here's the deal. So time is extremely important. And why does that matter? Well, because if I'm in 1942 and I can go buy stocks, like in Coca-Cola or AT&T for like 35 cents or something crazy like that, knowing that my great granddaughter is going to have to pay, several $100s for the same asset, then why wouldn't I go ahead and buy for her now? So you are the ancestors. You are nothing more. All of us are nothing more. We are all nothing more than a memory of people that are going to live 100 years from now. So we're living in the past. We're not living in the present. We're not living in the future. If you look at it in a certain way, we're living in the past. So the things that are going to be really expensive for them are really cheap for us. Real estate that's going to cost $10 million for them might cost us $500,000. The stock that's going to cost them, $3,000 might cost us $30. So the question is, can you wire in? This is where consciousness comes into play. It's like I guess because I think about economics so much, it really is spiritual. I meditate on these things. I kid you not. If you can connect to that, like really care about that, then you'll go ahead and make some moves now that will supercharge their lives in the future. But it's hard to do if you're selfish. That's why I'm not a big fan of capitalism, because capitalism breeds selfishness. It breeds shallow thinking. It breeds excessive materialism. So I understand the importance of business and free enterprise and economic growth. but capitalism to me just misses the mark completely. So I would say do what you would do if you were 20 years old. Save like you would if you were young. How can my husband and I diversify our money to create a large amount of wealth? Well, if you're 44, first of all, 44, I don't think that's late in life. You'll probably be around another 40 years. But I would I would maybe consider jumping into a class or something that might teach you how to get a business going so you can have a side hustle so you can increase your income. And what that does is that gives you a faster vehicle. So let's say you're trying to go down the road and you get a late start. Well, if you get in an airplane, you can make up time really fast. But you got to get a plane. You got to learn how to fly a plane or whatever, right? Well, the same thing is true with making money. If you're already making money from your job and you're moving at a certain pace economically, it can be tough to accelerate based on the tools that you have at your disposal. But there are people that have better tools, right? There are people out there that right now, everybody in this room, there are people out here right now who could show you right now today how your income could literally multiply by 10. Like there are people out there that can say, oh, well, you can take this and do this and change this and put that around and literally change your life tomorrow. The answers are buried like in your life, right? They're out there. They're out there. And so to me, the great treasure hunt is to say, every day I'm going to go out. Like I know that there's gold and there's oil under the ground in my backyard. I need to go dig for gold. I need to dig for oil. So the question becomes, are you searching for answers? A lot of people get trapped in their lives because they're not searching for a better life. They're not trying to find out how other people live, because they're too focused on how they're living now, right? Just like even think about like dating, right? You're dating somebody that you don't even like that much, who treats you bad, and the relationship sucks. You really don't think that there's nobody out there better for you? There's 7 billion people on the planet. You don't think any of those people could be a better fit for you? But a lot of times we can't see those people because all we see is what's right in front of us. Again, that's another type of consciousness, and which goes back to another model that we talk about a lot in the Black Business School, which is wealth builders tend to have OPP. Not me, not that OPP, but OPP stands for opportunity, patience, and perspective. So I'll focus on that last P, perspective. Perspective means that I'm not seeing things in a flat 2 or 3 dimensional framework. I can go to the 4th dimension where I'm looking at the forest because I'm above the trees and I can look down and look around, right? And then if I'm really smart, I can even go to the 5th dimension where I can not only see the forest, but I can see all the potential manifestations of the forest over time. How I don't just see where things are, I see how things are evolving, how things can change. And if you think about this perspective piece is really important as far as your wealth consciousness. LeBron James is the greatest basketball player on earth, largely because he has a tremendous amount of court vision. He has a great court perspective. LeBron can go. I saw this in him when he was 17 years old and he was playing the McDonald's All-Star game. And I noticed how he could just see where everybody was. He could see how the plays were developing. He would throw the ball not to where you were. He threw the ball to where he knew you were going to be. So his perspective on the court is what made him a great player. So a lot of times people that have the most wealth, that build the most wealth, are people that just have the most perspective. So my suggestion to you is to try to gain perspective, try to understand where things are going, what's happening, where the trends are, things like that. And that way you can get to the spot before everybody else does. Because usually the person who gets there first usually wins, right? It's just like that in basketball. You ever see where somebody gets a charging call and they get to the spot first, right? Well, the same thing is true in life. If you get to the spot first, then you win. If you get to the spot late, then you lose. One of the things that works against us in our culture is that we tend to be in some areas we are trendsetters. We're ahead of the curve, right? Maybe fashion and stuff like that. But in some areas we are trend followers. In some areas we go into, so like, for example, you hear people say, we need to get our kids into coding. Our kids need to get into coding. Well, maybe if this were like the year 2003, then that would be a great thing to say. That would be really visionary. But now that's not really the way to go, because all the coders pretty much live in India. Like, people that want coding for their business, they don't hire Americans. They hire Indians who are going to work for $5 an hour and still give them excellent work, because all they do is sit around and code every day, right? You want to do something different. Maybe you want to be the person who knows how to manage a team of coders or something, but being a coder isn't the pathway to wealth now. Maybe 15 years ago it was, but now it's not. So anyway, let me jump back in. What are your thoughts on investing in Pfizer stock? I invest in it. It's a long-term hold for me. I think Pfizer, is obviously doing well because of the pandemic, and the whole vaccine conversation. Is Pfizer going to keep doing well? Well, I guess it depends on how the rollout goes, and it comes down to these expectations of earnings. Everybody expects Pfizer to make more money. That's a given. The question is, are they going to make more than they're expected to make? And that's really up to the financial gods to figure that out. Nobody knows how that's going to play out. All right, let's see. Could he relate the site could he relate the site for the Black Agenda? Thanks. The allblackagenda.com, the allblackagenda.com. That's where the $5 a day investing plan is. And there's a lot of stuff in there. It's really all about what I call the new paradigm for Black America, which I wrote about in my book. It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, which, by the way, you can get a free e-copy of that book if you go to allblackeconomics.com. Somebody type that in, please. allblackeconomics.com. And so basically my conclusion in terms of my vision of what I think the Black community can become is it focuses on at least 4 key areas: wealth, education, family, and community. And so the allblackagenda.com, the allblackagenda.com focuses on those 4 pillars and kind of lays out resources and frameworks and guidelines on how you might want to pursue that. Just basically codes of conduct, codes of how you approach things. Every community must have a code, and sometimes our community breaks down because we don't have a code. So feel free to go to the allblackagenda.com. There's a lot of stuff there. All right, let's see here. I'm 54 and my home's almost paid off. I plan to live in my home indefinitely, but my neighborhood's changing for the worse. There are rental properties in the subdivision now. Would you suggest selling now and buying another home, or selling it and renting a place until things get down or things settle down? Yeah, you might want to sell and rent, but this isn't financial advice, but you have a couple of options. You can sell and get out because you obviously see the tea leaves. You see where things are going. Or you could sell and just rent to somebody who wants to live there. But it sounds like the neighborhood might be declining, which could be a long-term concern. So you got to kind of think about that. So those are the 2 things I'm thinking, like either leave or either leave for good, like sell and just buy somewhere else, or sell it and rent it, or keep it and rent it, or whichever one you want to do. Abrian, if I invested 20% of my net income consistently for 10 years, that should put me at more than $30,000 in investing. Yeah. A person who does that is going to do fine financially. You're going to have plenty of money. You don't have to worry about anything. Dr. Boyce, do you have a program where you do one-on-one mentorship? I hear that's important, getting to the next level. If you want to do a one-on-one with me, my one-on-ones are not cheap. And the reason they're not cheap is because I'd rather talk to you in a group than talk to you individually. But it doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you individually. It just means it's not cheap. But if you are interested in doing that, you can email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. I do about maybe 4 one-on-ones a month. I don't do a lot of those, but if you want to get one, feel free to email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Tell them what you want, and they can guide you to the place where you can sign up for that. Another thing that we have that's less expensive than a one-on-one, but you can still get me to answer every single question that you submit, is Ask Dr. Boyce. AskDrBoyce.com is where you can go take a look at that. Now at AskDrBoyce.com, a lot of you have free access to that already. If you're in the blackstockmarketprogram.com, you have free access. If you're in blackmoney101.com, I think you have free access. If you're in the Powernomics Masterclass, you have free access. So basically, don't sign up for it if you're already in a program where you have it for free. So check your bundle contents. We give you a lot of free stuff in addition to the core curriculum or whatever you signed up for. So if it's already in there, then don't sign up for it. But if you want to send me questions and I will answer every single question, just go to AskDrBoyce.com. And the code word, I think if you use the code word the code word podcast, we talked about that earlier, you can get 30% off. So feel free to use that. All right. So let's see here. I haven't taken the course yet. It's the $5 a day per stock you own, or $5 a day in the stock you own. I'm sorry, Bridget. I'm trying to understand the question. I haven't taken the course yet. It's the $5 a day per stock you own, or $5 a day in one stock you own. $5 a day means $5 a day of investing. It doesn't mean you're picking any particular stock. In fact, when you invest in stocks, you should never just pick the same stock over and over again. You should actually spread your money out. That's what they call diversification. That's one of the most important rules of investing. Spread your money out. Never put all your eggs in one basket. Your grandma probably told you that when you were little. Michelle, how do you add a beneficiary to your Robinhood account? I don't think you can. I tried to do that, and Robinhood does not let you do that, which really burns me up. It makes me really question my relationship with Robinhood, or at the very least, I want to spread my money out, because there's a lot of things that they should have that they don't have. I added my beneficiary to what was the other account? Was it E-Trade? I think it was E-Trade. Yeah, E-Trade. It's easy. You can put a beneficiary in there, and beneficiaries are important to understand. Like, imagine if you died right now. Like, you died right now. Think about all the things you have going on in your life. Think about all the, platforms you're on, all the passwords you have, all the accounts you have. If you died tomorrow or died right this second, would the people you love be able to get access to your resources? Would they be able to get, if you are the person who pays the bills, would your spouse or your significant other be able to go into your account right now and get the money out to pay the bills that are due next week? If the answer is no, you may want to make some sort of plan so that in case something happens to me, they can immediately get what they need, not after 6 months of going to court when they got evicted and everything else and went bankrupt. I'm talking about like right now, immediately. Can they get into the accounts they need to get into? You got to think about that. So maybe put everything in one book or something. With Alicia, I have a, let me show you. It's right next to me. I have this file. It's almost like my death bag or something. I don't know. I don't want to call it that because that sounds pretty grim. But in my death bag, I keep a lot of my resources on my estate plan, trusts, life insurance policies, etc. And I have told Alicia, if something happens to me, I need you to go to this bag. And most of what we have is, you can find out about where things are so you can have proper conversations with the lawyers. Cause I know you're already going to be sad anyway. So we made a death plan. I also told her, cause that's the other thing too. The biggest thing that I do that I guess I'm known for is economic empowerment for Black people. That's a very dangerous thing. Like that's almost like a threat to national security. So I've had to literally confront the fact that somebody could literally, assassinate me. And, because if they killed me, then think about it, you'd have one less scholar running his mouth on the internet every day, teaching Black people the secrets to wealth that only white people understand. So I'm okay with that, right? Death does not scare me. What scares me is either dying for something stupid, dying for nothing, or dying without being prepared, right? Because here's the thing, I'm going to live forever. Like I already know this. I'm going to live forever because I've already recorded so many thoughts that are going to live, long after I'm gone. I've made estate plans so that once I'm done, all the stuff will be available. The Black Business School, all the stuff will be available for people in future generations. So you have to think about these things. And that's the type of consciousness, right? You got to grow beyond just seeing yourself in the here and now and you as just being you. You must see yourself through all eternity as a part of something bigger than yourself. And that's hard to do because you have to kill your ego in order to do that. Our ego makes us focus just on us and now and what matters now. You get trapped in the moment. But when you kind of let those things go, you can really become a part of something really special. So I'm super excited. I can see where the Black community is going. We're really obsessed. We're becoming more and more obsessed with economics and wealth building and ownership and everything else. By the year 2070, Project 2070, that's what I call it. By the year 2070, Black people will start to emerge as the world leaders in asset acquisition. We're just going to be damn good. Our kids are going to go out here and kill it. And some of them are going to become billionaires. So you're planting the seeds for that. So you should be very proud of that. All right. So a couple more questions. Then I got to go to this meeting. I'm already 21 minutes late. At what point should you take stock profits? There is no one point. It's really a personal decision. There's some people who buy stock and they just own it forever. There's some people who like to day trade and move back and forth. I like stock options because stock options allows you to make income from your portfolio without selling anything. But you can also, if you needed cash, you can maybe borrow against your stock. Your stock is also collateral, and stuff like that. Long-term wealth builders don't really like to sell stuff unless there's a good reason to do so. So people will usually sell for one of two reasons. Either one, they need cash. They have what they call a liquidity need. Like I got to pay the bills. So I got to sell some stock because I lost my job and I got to pay some bills. Or they have a better investment. They see a better investment vehicle. They hop out of one vehicle so they can hop in something that's going to be faster. Like I'm going to sell some stock so I can go buy a condo, so I can rent the condo because I can make more money with the condo. You don't just sell just because you made money, because there may be more money to be made. Like, being an investor means being an obsessive and prolific seed planter. If you're constantly planting seeds, then you will constantly get a harvest. One of the reasons that a lot of people stay broke and don't know why is because they expect a harvest. They wonder why they don't have a harvest. But if you ask them if they planted any seeds, they didn't plant any seeds. So it's like, well, how do you expect to have a harvest if you're planting no seeds? So if you're constantly planting seeds, then you're going to have big harvest. So I don't think there's any particular time when you're supposed to take your profits. And I like stock options. because you can actually sell call options on your stock. If you decide you want to get some money out of your stock, you have to own 100 shares though in order to write a call option, in order to sell one. But it's doable because some stocks, are less than $10. So 100 shares is like $700-800. But you have this thing that can generate income. And if you calculate the ROI that people can make from selling call options, it's actually better than what people can make on a lot of real estate deals. So actually, that's one of the income generating mechanisms that we use in our family is selling call options. But there's also a way that you have to go about picking the stocks that you actually want to sell options on. So I have a portfolio of stocks that are just my long-term plays. I'm just owning these stocks. I don't care. I'm not paying attention to them. I buy them because I think the long-term prospects are good. That's my boring portfolio. My more interesting portfolio is a bunch of highly volatile stocks that I actually bought in a specific way to minimize the volatility. And I write options on those stocks so that I can generate monthly income for my family. Like that's so it's like two separate strands. So anyway, if you want to learn more about stock options, like I said, the masterclass, you can actually get a recording of that we did at stockoptionsmasterclass.com. So feel free to go to stockoptionsmasterclass.com. All right, Anthony. Okay, you already asked a question about profits. Should I reinvest those profits in the same stock or choose another? It depends on the situation, but you want to be diversified. You don't want to have all your money in one place. James Keller, is there a benefit of using more than one app? Yes, because you are safer if you don't have all your money in one place. I mean, think about it. If you have everything in one place, then that means you can lose everything just like that. If Robinhood goes bad or they, something happens, they have a computer glitch and you remove everybody's financial information. I mean, I don't know. I like to have my money in multiple places, not just one. I found out my son has over $5,000 in Bitcoin. Wow. On Cash App. And only $30 in stocks. He said because stocks move too slow. I told him he shouldn't have all his money in Bitcoin and put at least half in stocks. Was I right or wrong? Well, if that was my son, I would say the same thing. I would be like, so what are you doing? Are you crazy? Because I don't think having the bulk of your portfolio in any particular asset class ever makes sense. Seriously, I mean, you saw what happened with crypto in 2017. That stuff the bottom could fall out of that stuff in a second. So it doesn't mean that you don't invest though, but the fact that he has all his money in crypto I think that's a very bad move. So maybe you could either have him sell some crypto and move some money over. This is not investment advice. It's just me giving some thoughts here. Or he could just, from this point on, okay, we got enough crypto. We're not buying any more crypto. All our money's going to go into stocks now. Right. That might be a better way to go. But yeah, he needs to kind of understand crypto. Crypto's not a safe space. It's a very bad market. And when I say bad market, it's because there are certain characteristics that a high quality, high functioning stock market or asset market is supposed to have, like transparency and what they call information symmetry and certain regulation and things like that. And the crypto market doesn't have those things. The crypto market has a lot of fat whales in there that can manipulate prices that without any penalty. There are people there that have more information than you, and so it's like starting a restaurant in a bad neighborhood versus starting in a safe neighborhood. The New York Stock Exchange is like a safe neighborhood because they have a lot of regulation, a lot of protections to protect the little guy from getting screwed. Crypto is a bad neighborhood. There's a lot of money to be made in that bad neighborhood, but there's a lot of danger lurking in the corner. So if you set up a restaurant in a bad neighborhood, you better know what you're doing. You better know the people in that neighborhood. You better have some security, and you better just be prepared for the worst, right? Crypto is a bad neighborhood to invest in. I don't mind bad neighborhoods because I know how to protect myself. But if you don't know bad neighborhoods that well, then you want to be really careful, okay? So let's see here. Dr. Boyce, Shante, is a high beta indicative of a volatile stock? If so, what beta is considered to be too high? Well, there really is no too high or too low. It really depends on what you're trying to do. Some people want risk. Risk is good because risk can help you make more money, but risk is also bad because risk means you have a chance of losing a lot more than you would if you take no risk. So if you take no risk at all, then you're always going to be safe, but you'll never gain anything. But if you always take risk, if you seek risk, what they call risk-seeking behavior, then you're gonna get all these gains and have all these exciting things happen. But you also have the chance of a calamity. So a high beta, yeah, beta is one measure of risk. There are a lot of other measures of risk, but beta is definitely one of them. Beta is like basically how does that stock move relative to the market? So if you think about an ocean and think about the whole economy is like a big ocean. and you have a bunch of different boats on the ocean. You've got small boats, you got big boats, you got super tankers, you've got little tiny speedboats, you got boats with sails, boats with motors. You got different types of boats of different sizes. They have different captains with different skill levels. They some boats are going north, some boats are going south, right? All the boats are different. So imagine if there's a big tsunami that comes through, or a big wave, big tidal wave that goes through the ocean. All the boats are going to be affected. The rising tide will affect all boats. It may not lift all boats, but it will affect all boats, right? But the boats, how they're affected is going to be different, right? The big super tanker may barely feel it, whereas the little tiny dinghy boat may capsize, right? Or the boat going north might be affected differently from the boat going west, or the boat with the really good captain who knows how to maneuver is going to be affected differently from the boat with the inexperienced captain. So all the different boats are like different companies, right? And the ocean is the economy. So you have different companies that have different objectives, different size levels, different captains, meaning they're CEOs with different skill sets, and all those little companies and big companies are affected when the economy shifts. So when something big happens, like a big tidal wave, that's what we call systematic risk. In the economy, that's a systematic event. So when a systematic event occurs, like for example, the Treasury Secretary announces that they need to reduce interest rates, well, that big tidal wave comes through and it affects almost everybody. But different companies are affected differently. And beta measures that. And beta says, okay, when something really bad happens, do you move a little? Does a company wiggle, or does it completely flip over and damn near go bankrupt, right? And there's various factors to kind of measure that. And so ultimately, that's kind of how all stocks work. That's why, for example, there are days where, like those of you that are in the Black Stock Market program, there are days where I know if I go on to the Black Financial Channel and I say, how many of y'all made money today? I already know if there's going to be a lot of yeses or a lot of nos, because I know that if you're properly diversified and there was some good systematic information and the Dow went up that day by a lot, majority of you are going to say, yeah, I made money. But then on a bad day, the opposite will occur. So in a way, think of it maybe, I don't know, a little bit like weather, right? If we live in the same neighborhood and it's pouring rain, and I say, how many of y'all got wet today, right? A lot of you, if we're all standing outside and we're all kind of going to the same places, then I can kind of know that a lot of you got wet because it rained, and it rained on everybody, right? So that's kind of how the market works. And so anyway, I'll talk more about that later. I got to go, guys. By the way, we do these Q&As every Tuesday at 11. What time is it now? It's 11:30 Central, which is 12:30 11 Eastern. That's right. And also the recordings are all saved in AskDrBoyce.com. So feel free to go to AskDrBoyce.com, and that's also where you can leave questions and stuff like that for me if you want to. And last but not least, the Black Wealth Bootcamp starts on January 7th. So if you'd like to join the Black Wealth Bootcamp, you can actually still get a 30% discount on this early bird kind of thing. So feel free to go to blackwealthbootcamp.com. The Black Wealth Bootcamp is a really popular program we have in the Black Business School that's based solely on just one basic idea, which is economic independence from the corporate plantation. So it's really good for people that either want to quit their job and never have to look for another job, or people that just maybe they want to keep their job, but they don't want to be financially dependent on their job. They want to be able to withstand the event that that they lose their job or their income suddenly drops, etc. So we really kind of go through the Swiss Army knife of all the different ways that people make money and kind of break all that down for you. And it's really good for the whole family. Also, you have a lifetime membership. So feel free, if you'd like to join us on January 7th, go to blackwealthbootcamp.com. A lot of you are already in there. I already know that. So feel free to go to blackwealthbootcamp.com. All right, guys, I'm going to go. And next time I'll be able to wear my glasses the whole time, because my new glasses are supposedly arriving in the mail. I've never ordered mail order glasses. It's almost like a mail order bride or something. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I'll let you guys know how it goes. So have a good day, everybody. It's good talking to you.